Welcome to the Prescription for Admission podcast, where we talk about hospitals and hospital-based care, who you can expect to meet, and what you may experience during your time in the hospital, both as a patient and also as a healthcare provider working in a hospital. My name is Dr. Monique Nugent. I am a practicing hospitalist and also the author of Prescription for Admission, the book, where I talk about many of the same topics. Thank you for joining me and enjoy the show. Hi, and welcome back to the Prescription for Admission podcast. I am your host, Dr. Monique Nugent, and this is a podcast where we talk about hospitals. All things hospital-based care is your experience as a patient, a caretaker, and a healthcare professional. Today, I'm very excited to talk to our guest. Our guest today is Ms. Sarah Ecklein. Sarah Ecklein is a California licensed professional fiduciary and the founder of Trust and Honor, a mindful fiduciary agency serving families in the San Francisco Bay Area and beyond. She is also the host of the Legacy of Love podcast, where she helps people redefine legacy, not just as financial planning, but as an intentional, heart-centered act of love. Sarah, thank you so much for being here.
Monique, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you. I am very excited to have Sarah join us today because on this podcast, when we talk about hospitals, people think doctors, nurse, pharmacists, all the things that go into healthcare delivery at the bedside. But there is really an overlap of legal and financial care and planning that affects hospital experiences, outcomes, what patients and their family members have access to during their stay, after their stay, and then what you think about as you continue in your healthcare journey. And as people age or people get closer to disability, they have progressive healthcare issues, they may find that they need a little bit more help with that overlap and the financial planning. And so I'm so happy that Sarah is joining us today because she is going to tell us a bit about ways you can prepare, what can happen if you're not prepared, and her really great advice for moving forward with that financial legal overlap in your healthcare. Sarah, take it away. Thanks for being here.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. That was such a warm introduction. I mean, I knew I had to come on the podcast because I was like, wow, we both do different work, but I don't know. In some ways, I'm like, I feel like we have similar messages. Yeah. We're speaking similar languages. And I guess in some ways, like what we both do, right? We're supporting people through really hard times and crisis. And sometimes it's a death. A lot of times with my work, it ultimately leads to my clients passing away. Mm-hmm. But reasons why I love reaching people proactively on a podcast, because the best time to plan is when you're not going through a crisis. So hopefully if you have enough room and space in your day, and if you are in a crisis, also be gentle with yourself and know that this storm too shall pass. And when things settle, planning proactively, whether it's for your loved one or for yourself, I think is the greatest gifts that we can give our families. So I don't know if it's helpful to maybe start off with just kind of defining for listeners what the work I do is.
Do you mind telling us what a fiduciary is?
Yeah. So I'm in the state of California, and in every state with this work, it's going to be slightly different on the legal requirements. So please just know that for listeners. If you're outside of the state, it might be slightly different where you're located. But in California, we have a small license called Professional Fiduciaries. And basically what that license allows me to do is I can act in different capacities. And I describe it as an umbrella term. And under that umbrella, I can act as someone's conservator or guardian. I can act as a trustee. I can act as an executor. And I can also act as someone's agent, both in finances and in healthcare decision making. So what brought me to this work was originally thinking that I was going to be a hospice nurse. I felt very called to serve in end-of-life care after being with a loved one during her final 3 days of life. And that's kind of what started my professional journey and eventually led me to the work that I do now. But in essence, what I see that I do is I carry out people's final wishes, whether I'm working with clients proactively in the planning stage. So you don't need someone now, but I'm kind of working alongside clients, gathering kind of all their information up front, building that relationship, that trust, getting all the information of knowing what are your wishes, what are your values. Also, of course, the legal documents, the financial documents, so that I could step in with those worst case scenarios. And then, kind of the other extreme is also after death and administering people's trusts and estates and working with their loved ones. And so over the years, I've administered hundreds of trusts and estates in California. And I've really seen what works well and also what doesn't work well. And so one of the pieces that I find, especially with planning, is that most people think that your trust or your estate and this planning only pertains to after your death. And so much of the estate plan, while it does cover that piece, it's also really planning for our lifetime and planning for that incapacity. So I think that just knowing the title of your show and your audience probably talking about that piece is a good place to focus in on.
So I spent a lot of time talking about healthcare proxies, MOLST forms or POLST forms, depending on the state that you live in.
Yeah, we have POLST in California. Yep, that's what I'm used to. We have a bright pink.
Yes, it's bright
I don't know. Is it always bright pink in every state? Do you know? Or
it is supposed to be all bright pink.
Yeah.
So that everybody can see it. And then I also talk a lot about advanced directives. And I say, and if people have heard me say it on the show, and patients and their family members, if I'm coming to you to make a decision, saying in the hospital, we need to sit down and make a decision, it's usually because there's not a lot of great decisions that, are left. And so I want you to have these conversations before we get to this point. And so you're right. It does change as somebody goes through and being able to make your own decisions for yourself. And then if you're not, then you assign a healthcare proxy, someone who makes those medical decisions for them. And traditionally, it tends to be somebody's loved one, their husband, their brother, their mother, something like that. Do you step in as a fiduciary ever to be the person? Are you ever called to be the person to make those decisions for people if they can't? And what type of situations do people find themselves in where they may go to you to be that person?
Yeah, well, when I'm that person, what it typically looks like, and I think it's also important to just also acknowledge, I think that families have changed a lot over recent years, just even the last 50 years, right? People are having fewer children or no children. Families are no longer just living down the street from one another. The sense of community and having a village, I find, is just really getting stripped away in this country.
No, I mean, I chuckle, but it's true. And when we first spoke, we spoke about with the term solo agers. And I don't think that's a term that a lot of people hear. So solo aging means what Sarah was just saying, somebody who may not have the support system around them as they get older. No kids, or maybe no close kids. Their partner has passed, or they are unpartnered. Whatever it is, we find more and more people may be finding themselves in this position of solo aging.
Well, and especially, I mean, you know probably better than me, right? How long people are living. I had a client pass away a few years ago at 110, which is amazing, right?
Yeah.
We love that, and I can only imagine, gosh, how long are we going to live? The medical technologies that are going to be available, but with that, it also brings kind of another challenge and kind of problem. So, I mean, with that 110-year-old, she outlived all of her children, and her family who was supporting her was actually her grandchildren and great-grandchildren. And, they had busy, full lives themselves and did not live locally. So she really required that team. So even if we might have a family, I think that there's just kind of more reason of where, maybe we need to really just kind of reflect on our team. And it I think at the end of the day, most people are going to be naming family members or friends, non-professionals, I say, in these roles. And I think so much of, but okay, maybe let's back up a little bit. Most people don't plan.
No,
So,
no, it's
right?
100% true. Most people don't plan. The
Yeah.
discussions about like death, dying, aging, disability are uncomfortable conversations that nobody wants to have, nobody loves to have, unless you're like my mother, who was an ICU nurse for like 30 years, and they also have like a very different take on it. Like when you find those like retired ICU nurses, they're always like, just let me go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't do anything, you know? And I'm like, what does don't do anything mean? Like, nothing, you know? And that's not like a great way to have the conversation either, right? But what it
Well,
is these,
even, that kind of brings up, I mean, that is a lot of the conversations that I have with clients. I mean, what I found even so during COVID, that was really interesting because a lot of my clients, I work, I would say most of my clients for active cases are older in their senior years, and their quality of life is kind of going down and deteriorating. And those with capacity, I, brought it up, like, if you get COVID, like, what do you want to be intubated? At this point in the pandemic, we didn't really know what this was and what was
yeah,
going on. So it was just really, very scary. And most of them lived in either skilled nursing facilities, also assisted living. And so I had a lot of clients where their advanced health care directive and what they were dictating to me or in their documents was comfort measures only. But when COVID came around, it was like, no, like I want to be intubated or at least give it a trial. And, thank God this person had the ability to communicate that to me.
how often are you readdressing goals of care with your clients?
Well, with active cases, I mean, honestly, it's moment to moment. It really is. I mean, that's where when I'm acting as a healthcare decision maker, I mean, that can change. And so that's not ever, I don't know, for me, I don't ever say that's set in stone.
Yeah.
I think the other big misconception I see with people in planning is, our death, and also even incapacity, we think of these really kind of extreme examples and also thinking of incapacity as like an on and off switch. And anyone that's working, in this world, it's like, no, incapacity is very gray.
Yeah.
And especially like a lot of my clients will have some sort of dementia, and that can change on a daily basis, even in just the rhythm of the day, right? Like sometimes like, some days we're having a great day and sometimes we aren't. And so that's where I think building that relationship and continuing to address these and have these conversations, the more that we can kind of get clear of, okay, what feels good and right for us, and know that's going to continue to change and evolve. So I don't know. I hit it on a lot of points.
No,
But I'll let you respond.
I think it's great that you're saying that it's a moment to moment conversation. So I usually counsel people. I say, like, if you get like a big change in diagnosis, that's the time, sit down and have a conversation.
Yes.
After a hospital stay, I always tell people, reassess, look at your multiform and say, does this still hold true? But what you were saying is very true throughout a hospital stay, is that things can change pretty rapidly. And, your decision when you walk in the door of the hospital can be very different 3 days later. And then 3 days after that, it can also be very different if you get more information about a treatment that is available or not available, or pain levels. And so it is a dynamic conversation.
You brought up a memory. I'm assuming storytelling's allowed.
Yes, yes.
On the show. Yeah, I had a client years ago, and I was her healthcare decision maker. And anyways, she was, oh gosh, I love her. She has a special place in my heart. Anyways, but she's had mental illness her whole life and then got diagnosed with breast cancer, and she did not want treatment. And they basically she didn't get referred to hospice, but she kind of was in the in-between of right before you'd expect.
Yeah.
And this woman lived so long, so like years.
Yeah.
And then, anyways, overnight I get a call lives in a boarding care, had to get hospitalized, and basically she lost all control of like talking, of standing up, and I was like, oh my gosh, she's dying, it must be of cancer. Actually, what it ended up being, we found out days later, is that she had very low sodium levels.
That'll do it.
Yeah, so, and one of her medications, I guess that can be a side effect. And living in like senior living kind of setup, a lot of times people struggle, right, with too much salt. So she's not getting enough salt. Anyways, the point of that is like, yeah, going in, we can think like, oh my gosh, this is like the last moment. And then it's like, yes, things can just like rapidly change. I mean, with this example, it actually ended up being improving. And that's wonderful. I guess I don't usually see that with my clients. Maybe you see it a lot more with the shoes that you're wearing.
In all my years, I have only reversed one patient's comfort focused care.
Yeah.
And I'm usually pretty good at figuring out like a patient was dying, and I had a patient who I did not expect to be dying. It was again one of those, walked in the door, I thought he would walk out. Something happened pretty severe overnight, and his daughter and my colleague overnight spoke and decided that they would, go towards comfort. And I just wasn't seeing it. Like when I sat down in the morning and I was going over labs, I'm going over imaging, I'm just not seeing, I'm not seeing it. And I did sit the daughter down. I was like, I have never done this. I feel very awkward saying this. I know that like you came to the decision that your father is passing away. Everyone's coming from far and away to come say goodbye. If you can give me 24 hours to try this, that, and we'll actually see. He reversed totally, was discharged from the hospital, walked out. I saw that patient about 3 years later in the hospital for another non-critical type issue. And his daughter was like, when you sat down and said you wanted to do this, I was like, oh, this doctor is crazy. She's going to make him suffer. She's dragging out, but you seem so sincere. And she's like, we've had the greatest 3 years. He's like doing
Oh my
awesome,
gosh.
So I don't know what happened to him after that, but it's a moment to moment assessment of how somebody's doing. And little things that don't look huge can be huge, to people. Eating is something that I hear about over and over, that like when people with dementia, they start losing that reflex to be able to safely eat. And when I sit down and they're like, well, Dad chokes a little bit. I'm like, no, Dad's not choking a little bit. Dad's actually choking a lot of it. He's really aspirating. This isn't particularly safe. People don't see, they think it's like a little thing. Oh, it's just eating. But that's actually pretty big, right? And people have a lot of values around eating and feeding and hydration. And so that is a topic that, like, did you guys ever talk about, would Dad want, artificial feeding, and what would that look like? And, does that go into prognosis, and, does it change the prognosis? And people are just not having those conversations. And it's hard. So what I was saying earlier is I was speaking to a death doula, and I said to her, what's the trick for listeners? And she said, have the conversations often. Small conversations, and have them often. And what that does is it makes it a more familiar topic. It takes away that icky feeling of, oh, I don't really want to talk about that, And so I love that you're readdressing these things over and over with your clients.
I think it's exactly that. It's that we continue to have these conversations. It's not one and done. And that's really where the whole estate plan, I can see so only 1 in 3 families in the United States actually set that up, which is really a shame because, right, it's the one guarantee in life. We're all going to die, and only 1/3 of us are planning for that. But even there, it's like, just because you get your estate plan done and your affairs in order, it doesn't mean that plan is going to be a success. So that's where I think that there's so much more that we can do to set up ourselves, our family, for kind of successful outcomes. And that's like where, I don't know, I think it's a bit of like, so much of this is rooted, I think, in the denial of death, right? We all think that there's going to be a tomorrow. I don't know if you know enough, if you can speak as a doctor to
I have my
what
theory.
In the brain.
This is my theory on it.
Okay. I'd love.
And for our listeners who are not based in the States, we're based out of the United States. And so my theory on this is very much an American cultural centered thing. I think that we've become very separated from aging, disability,
Yeah.
and death.
Yeah.
Everything from the fact that, like, I saw something like kids didn't think cows and steak were the same, like not realizing that
Mm,
the animal would have to be butchered to be a steak, right? So like being
mm-hmm,
separated from animal death to food,
mm,
to the fact that what you were just saying, families are very different now. You used to always have a nana. There was always like an old person around in a family,
yeah.
right? And now families are moving at the speed of light,
Yeah.
moving far away, and you're not seeing that person a lot. Culturally, we're
And they're not at
very,
home, right? With us, right? We used to all kind of live
yeah, you
together.
used to all kind of live together. You see this person, it was like a daily interaction. And this is kind of the same thing with people who had a progressive disorder or a disability. They
Wow.
were in the family, you know?
Yeah.
And so we culturally we're very good at traumatic death. Like if we said Jim got hit by a car, people put that
Hmm.
together as like, oh, getting hit by a car is not compatible with life. Jim has died. That makes sense. But if it was like Jim had heart failure and he also had some kidney disease from the heart failure. And then remember when he fell down and broke his hip and he had a little bit of memory problems, you know, and now he's really sick in the hospital and they're like, okay, is he going to get better? There's no computing that like all the pieces are adding up to this person may pass away. You know,
Yeah.
we're very good at rescuing things in this country. Very get hit by a car. You're great in the United States. We've got trauma surgeons out the wazoo. You
I
know,
love this. We speak the same language.
we're very good at rescue. But it's that condition of humanity that we're
Yeah.
not good at here culturally. We're
Yeah.
just not, it's just not comfortable to think of ourselves as human in any way, right? And it's kind of the same thing we see with mental health. In your lifetime, you will get sad. You will get anxious in your lifetime. People will struggle with substance and alcohol. That's part of the human condition. Some people may not be able to put down that substance ever. Some people may get over it. Some people may never get over their depression without assistance. Some people might be able to use different modalities. But to admit that we live in this human condition of imperfection is just very like uncomfortable and not willing to admit in this country. Like everybody always has to be on a 10. And so that's just my theory.
No, I agree. I mean, I think it's a bit of this kind of capitalism on overdrive, right? We're just on this like constant things always need to be going up and things always
Always.
need to be going great. And it's like, that's not natural, you know, especially humans for nature, anything in nature. There's cycles, this death and rebirth. And
Yeah.
that resonates so much. I absolutely agree. And I think it's also, you know, that kind of the adding on to what you said, it's like, yeah, well, you know, also with our elders and our seniors, it's like they're not at home with us. Where are they going? They're only going to like facilities and
Or they're
not
home
really,
alone.
yeah,
And the
or they're home
home
alone.
alone thing
Yeah.
scares me
Yeah.
greatly. It scares me greatly. And
Yeah.
I'm actually like currently doing a lot of introspection around this because I'm trying to figure out if it's a paternalistic like nature that I have that I want to take care of people and I want people to be in a safe place. So I don't see home alone as safe. Is that wrong of me or is it really not safe? And I wonder because I trained at Loma Linda in Southern California
Oh,
and
yeah.
it's a
Okay.
blue zone, right? So talk about 110 years old. I've been seeing 100-year-old centurions since I was a medical student. The people in Loma Linda live to be quite older, but they also live very attached,
Yeah.
right? They're
Yeah.
going to church. They're in
Yeah.
the
They have a whole
community. The
community.
whole
Yeah.
community is really centered around health, the church, taking care of each other. The Drayson Center, which is the gym, it's a university
Mm.
gym. So you expect to see a whole bunch of students there. I guarantee it was mostly older people from the community who would be like playing ping pong in the middle of the day, you know, doing their laps, doing their water aerobics. They were tapped in. And I don't know if they all lived alone, but I know that they were not alone. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of the times what scares me is that I find that my patients not only live alone, they are alone. And it's something that I'm
Mm.
struggling with right now. I'm kind of like, why does it bother you so much? I'm trying to discover that about myself.
Yeah.
My
Well, I
parents
think
weren't able
to
to do
me it goes so against like our nature, right? It's like really having that village, especially during, I don't know, that vulnerability. For me, like becoming a mother, I've never felt more vulnerable.
it.
And I feel like in a way I'm able to serve and do this work so much better because it also connects me to also my clients that are going through really difficult transitions. And I call myself a recovering perfectionist. Before motherhood, it's like, give me a job, I'll get it done, I'll do it myself attitude. And that goes out the window when you become a parent.
Yeah,
Right? It
and
goes out the
it
window. But
does.
I think, I don't know, just being, I don't know, I feel more connected to that, I guess the vulnerability piece, especially when our bodies aren't able to perform and do what it used to be able to do.
Yeah.
Definitely. My husband had surgery yesterday, or not yesterday, last week. And boy, you're reminded of that. Like, wow, our bodies are such a gift and we can take
Yes.
it for granted. That for me definitely comes up. I'm always
Yeah.
planning for death, but maybe not injury.
Well, that's important because disability, the disabled
It's
community is the one
yeah.
community that you can pop in and out of at any point in your life, and it can all really, really touch us.
No, well, and I think that again, going back to like, what we're talking about with when we're setting up our documents and when we're planning, that's another piece is considering of what we want, what is a good death, right, for us, and also incapacity, like what is that season, but also who the people that you're naming in these documents, are they appropriate and able to do the job? So a lot of times I see where, because families no longer are living locally, they'll name someone like 10 years older than them on a different
Oh,
coast, and
yes.
it's like, oh, this is not a well thought out plan. Or if you want to name that person first in the event something happens to you immediately, okay, you can do that, but maybe the second or third person that you name after them should be someone that's more boots on the ground.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
no,
I have a lot of times clients like that where they might still have the family support and want their loved ones involved, but kind of unsure if they'll be able to be there. So they'll name me kind of last in line so that I'll kind of be that safety net
wonderful.
for the family.
So what happens if you don't have that safety net, right? And this is the thing that people don't, again, think about or
Yeah.
realize is that there's actually things that happen if decisions need to be made and the patient is not able to make those decisions, or financially things need to happen and the patient is not particularly able to navigate that.
Yeah,
What
I mean
happens?
that's exactly where and why I could just get so inspired about planning. But it is important to paint a picture. If you haven't set up a plan, if you don't have that support, what that looks like is that the courts are going to get involved. And so in California, we use the language of a conservatorship. Some states they use the word guardianship. In California, we just distinguish between minors and adults. I don't know about, you're in New York, right?
I'm in Massachusetts,
Oh,
and
you're in Massachusetts. Oh, yeah,
yeah,
you
it's
crossed
okay.
in.
They're
Yeah.
like the same. But they're both
Edit
cold.
that out.
I know the Sox fans will come and get me. No, but you're right. It ends up in court. And a lot of the times people don't know this, but a lot of the times that is initiated by the hospital.
Yes. Yeah.
Because if we need to make decisions to care for you, or
Yeah.
to help move patients forward, like patients, I don't like saying it because it can sound icky, but you can't live at the hospital.
Yeah.
Right. And
No.
it's not just about, people say like, oh, well, you need the bed. It's not just about the bed. There are lots of other reasons why patients should not stay in a hospital, an acute hospital setting for a protracted amount of time. And so if decisions need to be made, it may be that the hospital initiates court proceeding. And that's, to me, when I say icky, that is when like I feel icky. I think if you have the opportunity to buffer yourself from those things happening, there are going to be times where it may not be possible.
Well, it's
But if you
interesting you
can,
say that because so a bit of what I've been kind of reflecting on and kind of, trying to figure out myself. I'm like, there's this disconnect in the country because, right, we're in the United States, we're all about, right, we're the land of the brave and the free. Like freedom and autonomy is like, to me, kind of core of like the American ideology. And so that's where, again, going back to if we plan, like that is us really choosing, like, and having the control over our lives and
Yes.
our family, especially if we have minor children, of stating who we would want the guardians to be. And if you don't do that, if you don't set up that plan, someone else is going to make that decision for you.
Yes.
And so that's where it's like this total disconnect where if we're really about, you know, having that autonomy, if we're really about having that choice and freedom,
I love
this
it.
is
Keep
one of
going.
the most, right, like empowered things that we can do as parents, as citizens, and just caring for ourselves and that next generation. It's a huge piece. And so, yeah, by not planning what that looks like, is, yeah, if you lack capacity and no one's there, yeah, I've seen that. And downstream, that's where the courts do appoint typically professionals like me. So I've done both that work. That's what now in my practice, I really specialize working with clients privately. So not going through the court system, but I've been doing this work for a long time. And that's a lot of kind of the experience that I've gained of, and also why I love working with people proactively. But yeah, what that looks like is that a judge would be deciding and putting someone there, someone that doesn't know you and you don't know. And those are the heartbreaking cases. Most patients, you know, no one wants to be conserved, and it's, if they have any kind of a capacity to know what's going on, they're going to be fighting it the whole way. Plus, like, let's just paint another picture. It's way more expensive, way more, and it's not private. I mean, your personal affairs are going through the courts. All of these are public documents. I mean, some things like medical documents and records will be classified and pulled back, but anyone can kind of go in and sit in the courtroom and know what's going on.
I never thought of that, but that's very true because, I mean, the team will talk about it on a regular basis. Oh, this is what's happening with the finances. We still are in this part of the court proceedings because, like, we need to know where we are
Yeah.
legally to be able to move medically forward a lot of the
Yes.
time. And what you
Yeah.
said about people not knowing you, and I love it. You've like given me 10,000 great
Oh, great.
buzzwords. People not knowing you, and then also your freedom, right? Like now you are going to be tied to somebody making decisions for you who doesn't know your values, who don't know your fears, who don't know your hopes, don't know your abilities. And
Well,
that,
and especially if you've never put something in writing, right? You've never met, you've never talked. And also if you're kind of in the camp of a solo ager or not a huge family or not a huge community to support, of people to say, you know, oh, this is what this person wanted, which that's what assuming a professional would be appointed, it's probably no one's able to act. Then, yeah, it's really kind of those worst case, kind of, it is that worst case scenario. And you do your best. But again, you're dealing with someone that lacks capacity, right?
yeah. Yeah. And I think on the other end, if you write things down, if you have these conversations, you have someone appointed, the other thing that you're gifting your family is a sense of relief that they are honoring you and they are helping you to do the things you would want done towards the end of your life versus, and I see it over and over, people feeling a lot of weight of, did I do the right thing?
Yeah.
And I think it's very different to say, I know mom's wishes. I know auntie's wishes. I'm doing the thing auntie wants. She wrote it down. She sat me down, had a conversation with me versus, and I hear it over and over, doc, what's the right thing to do? I can't make this decision for her. I don't know what to do. And so that is a huge
I'm sure you
gift
see
too.
that way more than I do. Oh,
Yeah, that
that's
is
hard.
a huge gift. Writing it
Yeah.
down is a gift, not only to yourself, but to your loved ones, because it lets everybody know everything out in the open. And then medically, it also gives me the ability to be empowered to carry out your wishes because then I have a piece of paper to start the conversation. this is what I see this is what Auntie has said, and she's written down in her healthcare advance directive. And so this is why we are moving forward X, Y, and Z. And it helps me to be able to start the conversation from a place of information and empathy that I'm doing the right thing that you would want done. So it's such a wonderful gift for everybody.
It really is. I think that's where I've seen just over the last 10 years, like things have gotten a lot better, right? Like we have the Pulse form, for example, or I forget where it's called in other states. And I find that most of the time people are coming in and asking, or if you're going in for a surgery or something, doctors are asking for that and want to have it in your file. Even if you're young and healthy, I don't know if you know, is that kind of becoming more of the standard? Because in California, I'm finding it's becoming more of the standard to ask for that.
I think different states have definitely different takes on it. And we're both in states that kind of take a little bit more of an aggressive movement towards advances in healthcare practices and healthcare policies. And so in Massachusetts, the Pulsed is very active. The state is very actively working on that, and we're working towards moving towards an electronic version, which is even better, that we can have that information more for patients instead of like hoping EMS grabs that hot pink sheet off of the refrigerator. But it's something that I know people are looking for more and more, because we want to be able to support patients in the way that they want. And that is really, really important.
Yeah, I love what you're doing too, reaching people upstream and providing this podcast and having the book. And also you're a doctor that knows about, let me tell you, I've had a good amount of fights with doctors that will only look at the Pulse. And I'm like, there's an advanced healthcare directive. And they're like, no, they aren't even interested. And I'm like having to inform them like, excuse me, there's more than just that.
Good. And someone else, right? Someone on your side to say, hey, look, keep looking at this document, other things. It takes so much advocacy.
It does.
In a hospital stay. It takes so much. Yeah. And I don't ever want people to feel like, well, I listened to this podcast, I read Dr. Nugent's book, and so I'm going to do these things and it'll be fine. Because it's not. No. It takes so much advocacy, and there's a way it should be. Like people tell me all the time, like, well, they should have this document. They should, and you're right. There is a should, but there's also what's happening now.
Yeah,
and you have to take it from what's happening now.
Yeah, I love how you said that, because that's so much of my job, because I go in and out of talking to all different sorts of institutions, from banks to Social Security to Medicare to hospitals to assisted living. And a few years into this work, I definitely was kind of reaching a burnout myself, because I'm a strong woman and I go in and I'm fighting for my clients, and I was reaching burnout. And what I have had, and honestly where I developed this kind of practice, and it's all thanks to Social Security, because I used to spend hours there pre-COVID in the office every week. But anyways, I would just describe it. I thought of like, okay, I'm going to put on a different set of glasses, and now I'm in the world of, wherever you're at, whether it's a hospital, and I just need to kind of work within this weird world that makes very little logical sense. But do the best for you, the listener, for your loved one. I'm assuming for me, the client, how's the best way that I can get the job done? But it's kind of part of it.
It's so hard, because I understand like every single frustration I do. I was once giving a talk about communication skills in a hospital setting. And at the end of it, this gentleman comes up to me and he says, it was a great talk, but it's all not true. You are essentially a liar. I was like, oh, wow. Okay.
Oh, wow.
Nice to meet you, sir. Tell me more. My loved one was hospitalized. And if I didn't sit at the bed from 8:30 in the morning to 4 p.m., I would never have met the physician, talked to the physical therapist, talked to the dietitian, all these things that he felt were necessary for his loved one to get good care. he felt it was necessary for him to be there for those hours. He said, no one calls. Even if you leave messages, nobody calls. And if I didn't sit at the hospital bedside, I would never have spoken to those persons. And I said, well, did it work? He said, yeah. I said, then you did the right thing. Like, you did the thing you had to do. You have to navigate what's happening now. You just do, right? Every hospital is different. Every physician is different. Every nurse is different. And remember, shifts change every 12 hours, every 8 hours. You know, you never know which dietitian, your favorite speech therapist who's working with mom for 2 days is now on vacation, and now there's a different speech therapist. You have to be in the moment of now. And I was like, I hope you got something from what I was talking about, some kind of communication skills set that you can use the next time. But if what is necessary for you to feel that you are getting the best outcome is for you to sit at bedside, then you do the thing you feel you need to do. And you navigate that from here now. He didn't like that answer. But it's the answer that I give all the time. It's because every situation is different. So yeah.
And every hospital's different. And, I know the staff. I mean, I feel like that's where I learned exactly that during COVID. I mean, it really,
I'm sure.
And I feel like after COVID, I mean, it's still like caregiver, it's nurses. There's just been a huge turnover. Yeah. I don't know. For me, finding like a neurologist, it's like, oh my gosh, you wait a year. You're like, really?
Oh yeah, neurologist. You cannot get in with a neurologist for months and months at a time.
I mean, I hate to say this, but when I had a client that she never got to see one, we never got a clear understanding of what was going on with her medically before she passed. And, boy, did I fight, to get her seen sooner, but then she got referred to hospice, and it was like, well, I guess, her health has also changed. So I think also the big kind of piece for me, just even through my podcasting journey and talking to so many different people, but realizing like fostering this ability to be resilient and pivot, this quality, I think, is what separates people. So as we're aging, the seniors that are holding on and resistant to change versus those that are more open and adaptable. And so if you're also supporting a loved one, I think it's through their journey, it's like acknowledging the reality of who they've chosen to be their entire life. And you're not going to expect that all of a sudden they're
different.
Like,
they're not going to be
different.
At like 89, they're the same person they were at 49.
Yeah.
Right. When they were your mom and you felt like this particular personality trait was obnoxious at 40, when you were 11 and they were 49, and now that they're 89 and you're 59, like or 51, like it's the same personality, trait. And I hear it like all the time. The other thing that I hear is like, well, she shouldn't do that. I'm like, well, she's allowed to make that decision at this, at any age. Like, not just the adult child doesn't get to step in and make these choices just because you feel like someone's
just
old.
Because I know. And that can be a really hard pill for people to swallow. I mean, I think so. And it's, and when you see the writing on the wall of, certain decisions that need to be made, sometimes it's just the financial constraints, people that want to stay at home and it's just no longer possible because of the medical need, and those can be really hard. So resilience and being able to pivot. But if you're, I think also just as we wrap up, kind of my final thoughts is like, also this is an opportunity for us to foster more of that within ourselves.
Yes.
I mean, that's been like a big thing just with my own practice and my own, personal journey, both professional and personal, where it's like, wow, this is really an opportunity to figure out how to foster that and develop that in myself and be more flexible. And because this is really kind of the practice and so much of where and why meditation is like the bedrock of my life, because really this work is like, we could approach this in so many different ways of trying to force life, or also just come and meet life with this loving acceptance and presence. So the power of that, I think, really can change the world. So wherever you're at in your caregiving journey, I don't know, hopefully that resonates some.
It's Beautiful. I mean, even in bridge sways, right? You can't push against the wind. The wind will break you, right? And
Yeah.
if you just are really just like, this is the way it's going to be, life will break you. You got to be flexible. You got to be able to, particularly through a hospital stay, you've got to be able to pivot. You've got to
Yeah.
be able to meet the situation where it is, be flexible, think about things differently. But drawing back on what we were saying, be rooted in your values, be rooted in what
Yeah.
your loved one has told you they want done, has written down, is on the advanced directive, is on the pulse, those conversations that you've had, be rooted in that to know that you are able to really honor them. And if you feel like maybe you don't have that support system, I hope what you got from this conversation is that there are professionals who you can go and seek out before something happens, before it gets to the point where the hospital is seeking guardianship or conservatorship or whatever it is. And so if you're making estate planning, think about how you can also plan to be supported in your healthcare journey. So
I love that.
this part of each episode is when I ask people to say, like, is there a TV show, a movie, a book, a something that really gives people an idea of what you do?
Oh,
And so
yeah.
when we first met, you told me, oh, I have the perfect one. And so I watched it. So I'm going to let you take
Of
it
what
away.
not? I mean, what I
What's
do,
not,
but
not,
not in the not what
yeah,
I do.
yeah. No, but I think it was a really great, I'll let you take it away. Tell us about
Yeah,
this
so
movie.
I Care a Lot for listeners. I don't know. It was a few years ago, pretty popular movie on Netflix. Yeah, so if you're interested in learning kind of the work that I do, and unfortunately, that story is based on a true story. Of course, it's been, totally expanded on and
Yeah.
elaborated and, become a Hollywood film, but which does make it entertaining. But yes, I Care a Lot. And I believe that Professional Fiduciary it was either Nevada or Arizona.
Oh, was it? I thought it was Pennsylvania. I don't
Was
know.
it? I
I
could
don't
be
know.
wrong, but I think based on
Oh,
the
the
true
true story.
story.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. But really it's a bad actor. I mean, that's so much of where like why I'm like, this is everything what professional fiduciaries and why our profession exists, why we have licensing and regulation in California. Unfortunately, if most states are behind us, but hopefully that'll be rolling out over the course of my career, more states having that regulation and just oversight. Should I expand on the story?
Oh, yeah. I just watched it. So I was like, oh, God. Yeah.
Yeah, I wish I watched it before. Oh well.
I'll do it.
Before this. It's been a while.
Yeah.
But yeah, basically it's, her practice, she really specializes in conservatorships. And it was kind of a bad actor example of what you don't want to happen. And there was all of these conflicts of interest,
Yeah.
getting kickbacks from like doctors and assisted living facilities, and the judges were even in it, and it was horrible. But she was really taking advantage financially of her seniors and controlling them and not out for their well-being. It's a good movie. It definitely paints the picture of what I do, but of course not how I do it. And I really do care a lot. I hate
That's
that.
so
I mean, it's a
ominous.
clever title, but I'm like, I do care a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. No, the main character was Marla, played by Rosamund Bund. I don't remember her name, but she was phenomenal in it.
Yeah. Yes.
And really showing that like somebody can take over your life. And so that's why try and plan ahead of time. Again, the movie
Yes.
is very extreme because it's a Hollywood film. Like Peter Dinklage is, one of the main characters, and anything he's in, I'm always excited to watch. You know, but yeah, it was just like at one point she's like in a river because she's being like killed by the Russian mob. So it was a lot, but
Yeah, it was a lot, but
it was a lot.
it'll give you, especially the first, the very beginning. I think, at least how I remember it, it gives you a sense of the work that I do.
Yeah.
Again, not how I do it.
No, 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 no. But I loved it. It was very entertaining. And then the end got me. I was like, oh, It was very good.
Well, and I think that's so much again, I'm just always beating this drum of where planning matters so much, right? Because even in conservatorships, and I think most professionals are very well intentioned. I mean, there's only about 900 actively licensed fiduciaries in the state of California, so we're a really small profession. And for the most part, I'm like, I see everyone having like really good hearts and caring a lot. We come to this, obviously with all different backgrounds and experience. I find a lot of people coming from social work or retired nurses, or also people coming from banking and finance, and really wanting to serve clients well.
So, yes, I would say I really care a lot. It's a great film, very entertaining, but gives a little bit of insight to the fact that there is an industry of people who are out there to help take care of you, not like the movie does, but
Yeah.
it's possible. And if you
Yes.
feel like this is something that you need, reach out ahead of time, because one of the ways that the character really manipulates the situation is through emergencies.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good. Of course, you see that, right? That's a nice filter.
Yeah. And so like reach out ahead of time. Reach out ahead of time so you can meet somebody, pick them, tell them what they want. They have everything kind of written out and can really be of support to
Yeah,
you.
we do our best, planning, right? I mean, we know that, right? When we're in crisis and panic, we're different centers of the brain are active. So when we're in more of a stable place, so proactively, that's the ideal. And I think building your team, regardless of whether or not you're working with professionals, that team could just be your family, but making sure those people are also willing to do the job and also know what your wishes are, having these
Yeah.
conversations. I think the more that we lean into that, it's setting everyone up, for just, a success. Yeah.
Yeah, this was great. Well, thank you. This was a great episode. This is Sarah Ecklein. Again, she is a California licensed fiduciary. Thank you so much for joining us. I want everyone to check out her podcast, the Legacy of Love podcast, where she goes more into depth in these topics and really helps people unpack this. And it's like I said earlier, it's not just about financial planning. It's about really planning for everything and doing that with intention. Sarah, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, Monique, thank you. This has been so much fun.
This was fun. Thank you guys for listening to the Prescription for Admission podcast. Remember to like, subscribe, follow, all of that stuff. And I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Bye.